Okay, awesome. All right. Is it good morning there, Phil?
It's a fabulous morning. Yes, sir.
Awesome. Glad to have you here. The purpose of this chat is to know about your ultra speaking journey. All right. Just want to figure out your journey path and your learnings. I want to see what I can learn from you. And the idea behind this is I had a chat with two other fellow ultra speaker community, and I was inspired like how their journey was. And you and I had another talk about, you asked me different questions. So I was like, okay, Phil probably the first person to get this project get going. I don't know where this will move on, but I think simply I'm chatting here to know your journey. It doesn't matter if that gets published or not, where people can learn. My purpose is to know what you have been through, going through, or gone through, and what are your biggest learnings and etc.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. So I think a big thing starting me on the journey is just learning, right? Desiring to learn and increase my skills, increase my abilities, and my comfort in whatever I'm doing. Communication is incredibly powerful. I mean, it is done everywhere, right? It's social, it's with your family, with your friends, at business. Like no matter what, like we have to communicate. If we do not communicate well, then our opportunities and our function is going to suffer. So just learning is a constant desire of mine. So I was listening to a book called Ultra Learning, and I learned about it. So everything is like a domino, right? Like one hits the other, and then it just continues to lead. So I've been listening to Tim Ferriss podcasts constantly, and he had a guest on there named Tyler Cowen, and Tyler was saying he reads like an exorbitant amount of books, just beyond what I can imagine. I am a slow reader, so I can't even say the number of it, but if it's more than a book a week, I'm like, whoa, that's a lot. But I feel like it's really probably like a book a day, if not more. Well, he was speaking about one of the books he ran into was ultra learning. And so in that, every now and then I'll write it down or I'll make a note to say, let me check that out. That's an interesting concept. So it probably sat for 3 to 6 months. So came up where that book made it up to the top of my list. It was time to do ultra learning. So got
Yeah.
it, started listening to it,
Thank you.
and there was a person highlighted in there, Tristan de Montebello. And I think he's friends with the author, Scott Young, I think it is. And so he was just telling the story about that. I'm like, that's fascinating. Well, I listened to Ultra Learning back to back. I listened to it twice because it was so fascinating. There's so many different stories of people learning and doing things that seem mind blowing and extraordinary. And I'm like, what? And so it was encouraging, empowering to me that simple, regular people, when we apply ourselves in a focused way, we can do incredible things. And I'm like, man, this guy sounds like somebody I'd like to learn from, at least learn about. And so
Right.
I hit Tristan and Michael Gendler up on LinkedIn and was just like, yeah, well, let's see what's up. And they were very accessible, very responsive. And, we joked a little bit, Tristan and I made a joke about how hopefully I can afford it. Maybe I'll have to go on some intermittent fasting and put my kids on that program so I can afford to do it. And he just kind of said, ha. But that's kind of how I started with that. I'm like, man, I've got to invest in being able to speak well, speak better, improve on that. So that's kind of how that
Yeah.
started.
Awesome. Awesome. It's pretty much same journey for me. I picked up the Ultra Learning book last year and got in here. One other thing that you interestingly mentioned, where it's like speaking is hitting one domino after another. You're pretty much interacting with everybody, right? And how it's helping. Tell me a little bit more on that. How long you have been with the ultra speaking community, and what sort of growth you have seen personally before and after?
Okay. So before I started, I told a few of my friends and family, like, hey, I'm going to start learning this public speaking online. And everybody's like, why? You speak well. And like, you're one of the best communicators I know. Like, that doesn't make sense. But to me, it's okay, maybe I'm good, but I want to be great, excellent, amazing, and I want to be on that journey. It's not about where I sit now. I want to be able to tap into my potential. So I'm like, I want to be on this growth path. And if anyone can lead me on that, I think that these guys have a great opportunity. So first got in there and I signed up and I got these games. I'm looking at these games. And I'm like, what does this have to do with anything? And it was hard for me to connect. Like I'm thinking, I look at these TED Talks and these composed people just putting together these amazing speeches and presentations. And I'm like, yeah, I want that. And I'm like, we're playing silly games. Like, how does that connect? It didn't line up in my mind at first. But then as we go through and you just get into the craft and the practice of things and the daily flow, then you're like, okay, that makes sense. You're putting yourself in an uncomfortable position so that you can then get out of it and stay composed. And I was like, that rings a bell. That resonates with me deeply. And it connects with a lot of my other learning as far as life is going to
Mm-hmm,
punch you in the throat sometimes. You're going to get in a spot where it's so uncomfortable you don't know what to do, you're
mm-hmm,
stuck. And the same thing applies when you're on a
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
stage or online and you're talking to someone in a way that you feel like you have to be on your A game, or you have to present, or you have to do something better than average. And if you don't, then you're a failure, or you don't, then you're letting your audience down or something like that. But as we play these games and as we just get comfortable with speaking, it opens up so many doors to be able to trust yourself in speaking. So I learned to trust myself so much more and have fun in the speaking process. And when we can do that, when we can relax, and when I can relax and I can put myself at ease, now the communication comes naturally and I can just flow into it. And that's one of the big things that I think opened up for me specifically.
Awesome. Great. So let me digest this. To your friends and family, you are a good speaker and communicator, but still you wanted to get on and learn more and grow. And you came here and you are able to trust more than ever before. Is that what you're saying?
That sounds right. And then also, there's another thing that led up
Awesome.
to that as well. I got on stage maybe a month before Ultra Speaking. I think I had signed up for Ultra Speaking, but I hadn't quite done anything yet with it. Or maybe I was pondering it, but I hadn't done anything with it yet. But I had a presentation and it was silly and bizarre and goofy as hell. And it was for these county auditors in Indiana here. And I was supposed to get up for a talent show. And I made up this story and I tried to memorize it. I tried so hard to memorize it and keep it in order and practice and practice and practice and recorded myself. And I forgot half of it when I walked up on that stage. The nerves got me. And I don't care how much practice you do when you're not used to the environment and you're not speaking with human beings looking at you, feeling judged and allowing yourself to be judged, it does not translate. And so that was a big eye opener of, yeah, I might be a good communicator, maybe even a great communicator when it's you and I, Sudhan. But when I walk on a stage where I feel like I got to be on, and if I'm not, then I'm less than, then that pressure gets put on. And so I saw, yeah, that is something that I need to get comfort with, that I need to learn in, because I want to be able to do that well. And I forgot so much of it. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So that was another part of that journey there as well.
I think I lost you when you were saying about you keep forgetting, you were forgetting off of the things when you were up on stage. And you were building up on that and your voice was lagging and I lost you. Sorry about that. And
Yeah, no
How
problem.
much did I miss it?
No, not much. Yeah, that is the thing is when you get on a stage or you get into an environment that you are not used to, and I don't care what kind of mental preparation that you think that's going to happen, if you're not doing it, it's a big difference. And so ultra speaking helps with that daily practice on a regular basis with people that can give you feedback and say, hey, maybe think about this. Hey, maybe consider this in real time.
Mhm.
And then you can apply that directly and you're doing it, doing it, doing it. That is what brings improvement and leading to excellence, is what it seems like to me.
Got it. So how long you have been training? Did you take a fundamental course or just been on daily training that you were able to upskill your speaking skill?
Yeah, I did the fundamentals course, and that was a big difference from the daily trainings. Getting experienced coaches who can give that feedback and push me and say, all right, try this, or maybe consider this, is a different experience than the daily trainings. So it's a little bit more closer to a one-on-one, or more time spent with more experienced people, I'll say. Um, so that was a big help. But combining that with the daily trainings was huge, in my opinion. I think if I just would have done one or the other, it would have not come near the results that I believe I gained with ultra speaking. But putting them together was huge. So
Hmm.
Michael Gendler offered a challenge one week where everybody to do all the sessions. So I think there were 10 sessions on top of the 4 fundamentals for the week.
Hmm.
Three fundamentals for the week. So it was like 13 total classes. And the evening ones were tough for me because usually I'm helping with bedtime or I'm doing, evening time after dinner or whatever with the kids. And so he like offered the challenge. I was like, challenge accepted, Michael. And I did it. And I could see a huge improvement from doing that.
Awesome. I love your enthusiasm. I can see that energy, love that you have for speaking and how it's been touching on different areas of life. Can we go a little bit deeper? I know you mentioned that trusting yourself have helped you a lot. Beyond that, any other skills that you noticeably seeing when interacting with others?
With others, like friends and family, or what do you mean with others?
Yeah, business communication. Let's divide that into two: a business communication with family and friends.
Okay.
How is that?
Yeah, I think it applied in both areas for sure. So on business side, I'm doing Zoom calls like this on a fairly regular basis, talking with my owner and my manager, and then also doing sales presentations. Um, it just flowed better. I could relax, I could joke a little bit, and not care like, oh no, that I'm gonna, if I'm not like perfectly on point saying all the right things at every single second, then something terrible is going to happen to me, or these people are going to think like I'm a terribly unprofessional goofball, um, which they might be a little bit right. But knowing that if I just keep my energy high and I can prove that I know what I'm talking about and do it in a way that is comfortable, then it translates so well on the business side. Also, on the business side, I've felt myself recording myself a lot more and being okay with it.
Mm,
And maybe not having a perfect video, but still posting it. Maybe not doing a perfect sales presentation, but still sharing it with people, and saying, hey, this isn't going to be 100% perfect. That's okay. I mean, to expect perfection is foolish, and then we're pushing ourselves in an unrealistic spot that then we will not perform as well. If we just say, hey, look, man, I'm gonna sit here, I'm gonna do this video, and I'm gonna mess up 3 times, and that's okay. And
mm.
just flow, do your thing. And when actually you give yourself that amount of leeway, you can excel on such a higher level. And I found that with myself on the business side of, I'm going to be okay with making mistakes, and I feel like I'm making less mistakes. I'm more relaxed. I'm enjoying it more. And I think the person on the other side is enjoying it more as well with that. So that's how I can say with the business side. If we count podcasting as business, then we'll go with that as well. I believe that ultra speaking gave me that last little nudge, that heavy nudge of saying, hey, man, you've been talking about it. You've been thinking about it. People tell you to do it, but you're just sitting around kind of thinking about it too long. Like just freaking jump in. And even if it's a C minus for the first podcast as you're learning, everything is not going to be A plus all the time. That's okay. You can bring that C minus up as you learn. And so that is a compilation of some of the things that I've been able to accomplish business wise. Personally, I've slowed down a lot with my children, especially. There's times where I'm like after them, and my wife has pointed out I can notice a difference. She said, in Ultra Speaking, we learn about the power of the breath and the pause and going slow and the value of the musicality as we speak, that I don't always have to speak at my normal, we'll call it level 5 speaking, right? So 1 through 10, 1 is really slow, maybe even quieter. And then number 10 is huge energy, lots of, happenings going on, maybe a lot faster than you would normally speak, just to practice putting ourselves on both ends of the range and then finding that comfort zone and being able to tap into that range and expand that. I found that it has brought my ability to pause and slow down. Don't
Is that
worry
your
about
favorite?
the favorite game, Conductor.
Mm-hmm.
I think so. I think that between that and Snow Globe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But they all have value to some level and push me in but those are probably my top 2. But that has helped me with the pause and the slow and allowing myself that I don't have to, get after them in a fast, aggressive manner. I can talk just like this and they'll still listen. If not, I will continue to do this until they do listen. And
Awesome,
it's,
great.
yeah.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, and it's just helped me in that. It's helped bring, I'd say, household peace. It's increased the
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
household peace because when me as one of the leaders, my wife and I in the house having that, it's everyone else, it's going to trickle down to everybody else. So I'm thankful for that. And I can see that as a difference as well.
Amazing. I'm so happy to hear your story on your personal, friend, and business side, how the speaking has impacted, because I can see it too in my life and different areas, how this game has helped me shape up the person that I am right now. It's immense. But you are the hero of chat today, so let's talk about you. Uh, um, and one of the thing I think I'm super excited for you when you said you're going to start about a podcast thing. How exciting it would be for a ultra speaking community person to come out with a hey, rock on, and doing with that. I think it's been a great experience for you. I think we will all be proud of to and listen to that whatever thing that you wanna do it on the podcast side, right? Let me think.
So as you're thinking, I'm going to throw a quick story in on that. So I just came back from South Carolina and I recorded a podcast with my brother-in-law. And
Mm-hmm.
my dog is getting wrapped up on my, there we go. We recorded one. We fiddled with the technology. I'm not a tech guy. He's not a tech guy. We just messed around, called a buddy who's more of a tech guy. It was a disaster, a debacle, a pain in the butt. And keeping that composure, right? Saying it's not going to go how I expect it. That's okay. How do we adjust on the fly and make this the best that we can with what we got? So we were with the distance. We were trying to keep the social distance as well. So that was a challenge. We had 2 mics. One was malfunctioning. Just so many things. So finally we got down to where we could record. We recorded for about 30 to 40 minutes. Our goal was to do an hour and a half to 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
30, 40 minutes. 7 minutes and 19 seconds was actually what recorded on the device. And I'm like, it's what it is, man. What are you going to do? Keep rolling. And I think that ultra speaking, it pairs very well with my personality. I mean, I try to be that way in general anyway. Don't worry about a thing. Every little thing's going to be all right. But when you're practicing that on a regular basis, that just really helped me prepare even more. So it was a ridiculous experience for many hours for a few minutes of recording, but we learned a lot. We had a fun, and now I have the ability to tell that story right now.
Amazing. Yeah, it's definitely, I think we also goofed up a little with the Zoom thing so far. But yet it's an impressive to be on a different side of the world and hear to the story on being on a community. It's a great thing.
Agreed.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about, or let me ask you this way. What would you tell for a new person who is coming into the ultra speaking community?
I would say do it and do it regularly and be okay with screwing up as much as possible. It's okay. Like I wrote a journal post maybe a month or two ago, probably longer than that. And I said, I'm going to do a podcast and it's going to be shit. And when you don't set ridiculous expectations for yourself, I think there's a fine line with setting unrealistic expectations and setting reasonable goals, right? There's a fine line in that. I don't think we should just not expect anything from ourselves. We should push ourselves, but knowing that, hey man, I'm going to do this ultra speaking thing. I've never played these games before. I'm going to fumble over my words and I'm not going to do the best and I'm not going to be an all-star every single time. That's okay. Just do it and keep doing it. And those things will start to smooth out and they'll flow. And that same thing goes with making videos, writing, blogging, whatever it is. Like, if the more we do it, the more comfortable we're going to get. But with speaking, it affects people in a different way, I think, than a lot of those things. Because with writing, you can hide behind the screen, you can hide behind the pen, and you have your own time to go with it. With speaking, it's you're on the spot. Don't mess up, don't mess up, don't mess up, don't mess up. That's what our brain is usually telling ourselves. And when you hear mess up, then our brain focuses on that and says, go ahead, mess up, mess up, mess up, because we're so tense. So relax, have fun, and do it, and be okay with messing up, because it's a supportive community. It's an uplifting community. No one's sitting there being like, Sudhan, I can't believe that you messed up that game. We're playing games, man. We're having fun. Like, when you make a game out of it, I think we get so much better results from it than when we are doing something that is so rigid and firm. And hey, make sure you memorize this, and if you don't, you get the finger wag. Do it, have fun, and be okay with failing. Fail forward. There was a podcast that actually Michael and Tristan recommended before the fundamentals class, and it was, I think, these professors from, I'm going to guess Harvard, but it could be somewhere else. And
I think it's
terminology,
Stanford.
there you go. I think that sounds right. It was one of the FERDs or the ORDs in their ending. But yeah, it sounds right. So the terminology was dare to be dull. And I listened to that podcast probably 5 times. And it is a very hard thing for us to come to grips with when we want to excel and we want to be type A and we want to always succeed and we want to be amazing and wow everybody and be clever and impressive. And it's okay if you're not, man. Like, there's going to be times where we're not. And when we just get comfortable with ourselves, just, hey, I'm going to be myself, do my thing. And if someone else isn't impressed with that or doesn't care about that, more power to them. Have a good day. But when we start coming into that comfort zone with ourselves, dare to be dull, just do the activity every day, have fun, get to see awesome people like Sudhan and say, man, I'm glad to be here. You will see great improvements in your communication and speaking, I believe.
Great, awesome. I think you touched 2 key important things. One is keep doing it. The second thing is dare to be dull. I think those are key things in speaking. And like you said earlier, it touches on all aspects of our life. Right? Great.
Yeah.
I think we all get what we learned from ultra speaking. We agree that we can see immense growth in ourselves in different areas. But I want to specifically ask this question that I kind of think about myself too. What are the obstacles that you have faced in trusting yourself more, or in terms of in this journey to access yourself or playing the games? It could be anything. But what are the main obstacles that you want to share with the community so people can learn and do it?
So an obstacle that I can think of, and again, I think it applies in a lot of aspects of life, is vulnerability. Being willing to put yourself out there and not have to wow everybody at every moment, and be honest with your experiences. As we're speaking, again, I think of these great TED Talks or these great speakers, and the ones that resonate with us deeply are the ones that people are just being straight up honest about things that most of us are not willing to breach those kinds of subjects. And it takes time, it takes practice, it takes comfort to be able to lead into that. But be willing to be vulnerable. Be honest with about who you are. First of all, to yourself. Who am I? Ask that question. Who do I want to be? And not who do I want to portray myself as whenever it's not lining up, it's not accurate. Be who you are, do your thing, be okay with that, and be willing to be vulnerable and share it with people. And when there's trust, when I trust you, Sudhan, I can say things to you that maybe I'm not going to say to someone who I don't trust, who has breached that trust or has made me feel a certain way. I'm not going to be vulnerable with that person. I'm going to have more guards and protections up. But as we build that trust, then we can start to say, you know what, even if someone else judges me, says something negative about me, I'm still going to be vulnerable. I'm still going to press that because I'm growing in myself. So back to the main question, vulnerability would be the answer I have for an obstacle. Be willing to do that,
Awesome.
and we will grow
Yeah.
in so many ways.
Awesome. Great. So I see a lot of parallels in what you're saying with my journey and the people that I've spoken with too. Um, I think that comes to our end of our chat as well. It's great to hear people on this community and different part of the world goes through the same challenges. It's immense. Um, let's wrap it up. And any questions from me? I think I'm done with that. I'm gonna stop recording and send this to Tristan, and we'll see, and we'll take it from there.
Sounds like a plan.